Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of Exploring the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. We are on part 14, part 2, covering paragraphs 42 through 52. And without any further ado, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, this thy servant has advanced toward the sea, is passionately wandering in the desert of thy love, walking in the paths of thy service, anticipating thy favors, hoping for thy bounty, relying upon thy kingdom, and intoxicated by the wine of thy gift. O my God, increase the fervor of this affliction, for thee, the consistency of his praise of thee, and the ardor of his love for thee. Verily, thou art the generous, the Lord of grace abounding. There is no other God but thee, the forgiving, the merciful. Abdu'l-Baha.
Thank you very much, dear Tesfai. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. And welcome back, every one of you. So, dear friends, let us get back to our study of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. So we were studying in our past session the paragraphs 42 through 52. And I hope you, dear friends, had time to go back and look, either watch the recording and or had time to read it for yourself. So because there was quite a number of paragraphs, we cannot afford to go back and reread every paragraph. So I'm going to go straight to the text study today, okay? Because it would be too much to go back and reread everything, okay? So we're going to go back to our study, okay? Where we were and where we left off. Okay, so dear friends, in the latter part of the study of paragraphs 42 through 52, in this section of his letter, the beloved guardian is citing a number of statements from His Holiness Baha'u'llah regarding the manifestation of God, who is to succeed him. And similar to the prophecies made about Baha'u'llah in the previous dispensations, the full meaning of such statements will remain unknown until they are fulfilled. Nevertheless, it is possible to develop some understanding of the greater covenant of Baha'u'llah, and particularly to be aware of misunderstandings that might occur. So this is in this latter part where Baha'u'llah talks about one to come after him. So this is also about the greater covenant that, yeah, it doesn't end with Baha'u'llah. There's obviously going to be more manifestations after Baha'u'llah. And this is a beautiful illuminated copy of the Kitab Aqdas. And this is in the archives. You can see this a beautiful illuminated copy of the Kitab Aqdas, the most holy book. It was commissioned by His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha. And this is in the archives. So
these are Arabic or Persian?
The writing here, this is, I believe it's Arabic. Am I correct? Yes, this is Arabic. Yes. Generally speaking, okay, generally speaking, the poetic verses, okay, are in Persian because they're flowery and they have this type of flowery language, okay? They're in Persian, in Farsi. The ones that are laws, ordinances, such as Kitab Aqdas and a few others are in Arabic. And some of the writings have Arabic and Persian in them, in the text. So I cannot, I'm not going to say which one has both of them, but I'm just as a generality. So
yeah, if you see the hidden words, it is to be Arabic and Persian.
exactly. There's the Arabic you said, and there's the Persian. You're absolutely right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you also can see in the Persian hidden words, they're also generally longer and have more symbolism in the Persian ones. Go look at it. It's very interesting. They're the analogies and metaphors, especially the metaphors. Go look at in the Persian hidden words, the symbolism and metaphors of the Persian hidden words are incredible. Talking about the doves and the per se the world to come and the angels and the trumpets and everything. The analogies are incredible, and my understanding of Persian is so limited. I'm sure in the original language, the Persian hidden words are just so beautiful, and so that is something. And the Arabic hidden words are generally shorter, and I think this is the exactness and preciseness of the Arabic language. And so it's just that is how it is. Okay, there we go. And also, if you look at the introduction, I believe it's at the very introduction of the hidden words. It says that the hidden words have been clothed in a garment of brevity. This is so. This is how the divine word has been breathed. So it's been clothed in a garment of brevity, meaning imagine the whole ocean of Baha'u'llah, and he wants to explain a concept. And this concept is just an ocean. But he says, okay, let's make this whole ocean into a single drop of water. And that is what a hidden word is. It's the whole ocean compacted into a nice nugget, as they say. And this is 152 nuggets of his ocean, demonstrating every single powerful creation. And and I encourage you all in your private time to study the hidden words. Read them, reread them, because each one has so much vastness in each one of them. So thank you very dear Tesfai. That is something. Oh, and another thing on another tangent, the hidden words of Baha'u'llah is an incredible document. And it has also been foretold in the scriptures, okay? And you're like, Ehsan, what are you talking about, the scriptures? Yes, the scriptures, the gospels. How many fish were caught in the nets? In the nets of Peter? 150, I believe 152 or so. The exact same number as how many hidden words there are. So it's an incredible coincidence of all the exact number of fish that were caught. It was also the exact same number of hidden words, okay? And then another thing that is of interest, the hidden words is the ethical document of the faith, in the sense. If you look at the morals and the principles of what the faith stands for, justice, rectitude of conduct, chaste and holy life. And every one of those, per se, standards, every one of those paragraphs, every one of those writings, what does the faith in essence as a character stand for? We should study them deeply. And you can actually find a full-on study on the Crimson Academy website for each one. For example, if you want to study the Arabic hidden words, you can find a full-on study on the Crimson Academy website. And if you want to study the Persian hidden words, you can go to the Crimson Academy website and do that too.
So Baha'u'llah wrote on purpose in Arabic and Persian, right? To make
you're absolutely
right. Okay.
Yeah, because each language has qualities and attributes. And so Persian has unique qualities to it. And as well as Arabic has unique qualities to it. So there is reason why he chose one language over another for his revelation to be expressed in. And so I don't want to get into too much more into it, but
yeah, because this is very unique, never in the past revelation. That's why I'm asking, because it's only in the Baha'u'llah's revelation that we have Arabic and then Persian.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on that a manifestation, we actually obviously have the writing, and a manifestation has chosen different languages to reveal in, which is unique for the first time.
Yeah.
And we have the recording of it also. So that's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So in this paragraphs, in paragraphs 42 through 52, His Holiness Baha'u'llah is also in these statements addressing his own covenant, this greater covenant of Baha'u'llah. And these are some of the major principles that are highlighted in these statements. And I put 4 of these here as a summary. The first clear principle is that Baha'is should not believe in the finality of the revelation of Baha'u'llah, as it is contrary to the fundamental teaching of progressive revelation. So it's, no matter how much we love His Holiness Baha'u'llah, he isn't the end. There will always be and always continue to be manifestations of God after Baha'u'llah. This is the principle, the fundamental principle of progressive revelation. The Blessed Bab has indicated that the process of progressive revelation will continue after Baha'u'llah, in the same way that the object of all the revelations before Muhammad was to pave the way for his revelation. And all the manifestations of God, including Baha'u'llah, have been preparing humanity for the coming of the future manifestations of God. So every one of them have been preparing the way for the next manifestation of God. So this is the principle of progressive revelation. The next manifestation of God will be invested with great sovereignty and mighty dominion. So this is the next manifestation of God in at least 1,000 years, because it could be 2,000 years or 1,233 years. Who knows, right? So at least 1,000 years. So, but from Baha'u'llah states, the next manifestation will be invested with great sovereignty and mighty dominion. And the next manifestation of God will also be persecuted to such an extent that Baha'u'llah has expressed his fears for him. Okay, now this is not good. Okay, this we see this at the top of page 117. Okay, so first of all, again, dear friends, we're studying the dispensation of Baha'u'llah, and in the world order of Baha'u'llah letters, the dispensation of Baha'u'llah is on the page 117 top. It says, I am not apprehensive for my own self. This Baha'u'llah speaking. I am not apprehensive for my own self. Baha'u'llah still more explicitly declares, my fears are for him who will be sent down unto you after me, him who will be invested with great sovereignty and mighty dominion. So there we see the parts he says, will be invested with great sovereignty and mighty dominion, right? And then he writes in the Surat al-Haykal, by those words which I have revealed, myself is not intended, but rather he who will come after me. To it is witness God the All-Knowing, deal not with him, he adds, as ye have dealt with me. Deal not with him, as ye have dealt with me. So here Baha'u'llah is hoping that humanity has matured not to continue its track record, as they say, its track record of persecuting the manifestation of God when he, or in the future she, appears. And the reality is, we're 12 and 12 at persecuting these manifestations of God. I mean, we don't have a good track record as humanity. I mean, every time they appear, there's disbelief And then after disbelief comes rejection. And when rejection comes, it's what happens? Persecution. And en masse, this persecution causes the manifestation of God to suffer, and as well as his followers, whoever is his followers, to suffer. Whether it's physical or hopefully, not hopefully, if there is persecution, hopefully it's not going to be physically, but it could be verbally, it could be psychologically, it could be all of the above type of persecution. You see what I'm saying? And the reality is, if there is ever any persecution, hopefully at least it's not going to be physical persecution, and torture and all of that. But the reality is, the manifestation of God is saying, I fear not for myself, but for the one who will come after. And so this is from the beloved guardian. This is from a letter written on behalf of the beloved guardian to the National Spiritual Assembly of the United States and Canada, December 1st, 1934. And you're like, Ehsan, 1934, okay. Now, this letter, this Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, was written February 8th, 1934. So this was in answer to the National Spiritual Assembly of the United States in regards to this, my fears are for him who will be sent down unto you after me, where we're reading right now on page 117 in Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. So this is what the beloved guardian says. As to the meaning of the quotation, my fears are for him who will be sent down unto you after me, this refers to the manifestation who is to come after 1,000 or more years, who, like all previous messengers of God, will be subjected to persecutions, but will eventually triumph over them. For men of ill will have been and will always continue to be in this world, unless mankind reaches a state of complete and absolute perfection, a condition which is not only improbable, but actually impossible to attain. The fundamental difference, however, between this dispensation and all previous ones is this, that in this revelation, the possibility of permanent schism between the followers of the Prophet has been prevented through the direct and explicit instructions providing for the necessary instruments designed to maintain the organic unity of the body of the faithful. So there we are, dear friends.
So, may I say something?
Please, dear Tesfaye, go ahead.
Yeah, is it to be now the way that he answered the guardian? Is it suffering and the persecution is to be like a requirement for the manifestation of God, or what? What do you think? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm thinking, dear Tesfaye. I'm immediately, I'm not a fountain of knowledge. I'm thinking. But the question,
no, that's fine.
The question is a good question. The question is a good question. Is it a requirement? I don't think it's a requirement. I don't think it's a requirement. It's just that humanity hasn't matured.
I know, but does it look like a standard for the manifestation of God, or what does that mean then, in other words?
Yeah. Zamruhi has a hand. Zamruhi, Jan, please.
It's just my humble opinion that came to mind. I think Baha'u'llah is warning us that it is imminent because of how people are acting and how people are reacting. And he's really forewarning us. I'm sure all the other messengers have always forewarned their followers also. And unfortunately, the way Baha'u'llah is saying, I feel like, and he says at the end of the paragraph, he fears for that person because he thinks they're going to deal with him even worse.
Right. And remember, dear friends, these should be Baha'is. right? Okay. In 1,000 years at least, these should be Baha'is, and they should be recognizing the manifestation of God to come. And the Supreme Body, the Universal House of Justice, will say that this person, the Supreme Body will say this person is the manifestation of God in that, because we will always have the Universal House of Justice, you know, and the Universal House of Justice will turn and say, this is the manifestation of God, you know, and what will happen is it will be a massive challenge to the community. And Baha'u'llah is saying, I fear for this.
You're right. You're right about that, because the House of Justice, they are revealing the next manifestation of God. And then, so the people of the earth, they don't have any problem to seek for the coming of another manifestation. That's a clear point. But the rest of the suffering and whatever happened is to be between the God and the manifestation of God, because we are exempted because we are in the next world at that time.
Hopefully it's the Baha'is who do the recognition, and the ones that are in opposition are, as here it says, that there will always continue to be in this world people of ill will be people of, you know, the per se the others of, and hopefully it won't. The Baha'is themselves will have matured in their recognition. But,
right.
Yeah, that is something that is, as dear Zamrui John mentioned, that this is should be an eye opener for the Baha'is to be have that level of purity of heart. You know, I always think about, you know, Qudus and how he had such a purity of heart to recognize the blessed Bab. We should have that level, work on our heart to be able to, if we were living in 1,200 years from now, and the manifestation of God, and the Universal House of Justice says the manifestation of God is going to appear within, you know, we should be able to recognize the manifestation of God. We should be, like Mullah Hussein, be able to recognize the manifestation of God. And that should be what we should be striving for, having that level of purity of heart. It's, you know, what is the difference between you and a Mullah Hussein? The difference is, you know, how much have you worked here in that heart? The difference.
Yeah, because he did his part, and we need to do our part too, and we need to go by example.
You're absolutely right. So, dear friends, that is we finished. I encourage you to go back and look at the paragraphs 42 through 52. So those were the few slides that we finished on our set there for 42 through 52. Now we're going to get into our next section. We're going to cover the Blessed Bab. So cool. Okay, this is going to be great. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Now we're entering part 15 of our class. Part 15. Here we go. So part 15 is going to cover paragraphs 53 through 57. Okay? So if we don't finish this tonight, this is your homework reading. There you go. Paragraphs 53 through 57. And in these paragraphs, we're going to be learning about this twofold station of the Blessed Bab, okay? And if you're like, Essam, what does twofold station of the Blessed Bab mean? Well, very simply, he is the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, as well as he is an independent manifestation in his own right, okay? He has these two stations. As well as we're also going to explore the object of all the previous prophets. What is their purpose? What has their purpose been? As well, and again, this is something that just keeps coming up and just keeps coming up, the greatness of this revelation. and especially the greatness of his revelation. And when his revelation, meaning whose? The Blessed Bab's. How incredible this period of the ministry of the Blessed Bab's was. And so we're going to be reading these paragraphs 53 through 57. Then we're going to get into it, studying it, okay? Here we go, dear friends. So this is, now we're transitioning into our new section called the Bab, okay? Our first reader is going to be our dear friend Doug, okay?
The Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, paragraphs under study, paragraph 53. Dearly beloved friends, that the Bab, the inaugurator of the Babi dispensation, is fully entitled to rank as one of the self-sufficient manifestations of God. That he has been invested with sovereign power and authority, and exercises all the rights and prerogatives of independent prophethood, is yet another fundamental verity which the message of Baha'u'llah insistently proclaims, and which its followers must uncompromisingly uphold. That he is not to be regarded merely as an inspired precursor of the Baha'i revelation, that in his person, as he himself bears witness in the Persian Bayan, the object of all the prophets gone before him has been fulfilled, is a truth which I feel it my duty to demonstrate and emphasize. We would assuredly be failing in our duty to the faith we profess, and would be violating one of its basic and sacred principles if in our words or by our conduct we hesitate to recognize the implications of this root principle of Baha'i belief, or refuse to uphold unreservedly its integrity and demonstrate its truth. Indeed, the chief motive actuating me to undertake the task of editing and translating Nabil's immortal narrative has been to enable every follower of the faith in the West to better understand and more readily grasp the tremendous implications of his exalted station, and to more ardently admire and love him.
So beautifully read. Thank you, Doug. I pause here for 2 seconds. One of the most beautiful things about studying the dispensation of Baha'u'llah is that if you truly, truly, deeply study it, your love for the Blessed Bab will manifoldly grow. Your awe of the Blessed Bab will manifoldly grow, because you will see his station. You will see how the beloved guardian describes the station of the Blessed Bab in the writings of, in the paragraphs of the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. So this is something I encourage you, and also to cross-reference this if God passes by. And so you'll see how incredible is this station of the Blessed Bab. Okay, we carry on. We're going to study this in much greater detail. I just wanted to mention that. I'm going to read this one. There can be no doubt that the claim to the twofold station ordained for the Bab by the Almighty, a claim which he himself has so boldly advanced, which Baha'u'llah has repeatedly affirmed, and to which the will and testament of Abdul Baha has finally given the sanction of its testimony, constitutes the most distinctive feature of the Baha'i dispensation. It is a further evidence of its uniqueness, a tremendous accession to the strength, to the mysterious power and authority with which this holy cycle has been invested. Indeed, the greatness of the Bab consists primarily not in his being the divinely appointed forerunner of so transcendent a revelation, but rather in his having been invested with the powers inherent in the inaugurator of a separate religious dispensation, and in his wielding to a degree unrivaled by the messengers gone before him, the scepter of independent prophethood. We carry on. Dear Miss Claudia, if you could kindly read this one for us.
Unmute. Okay. The short duration of his dispensation, the restricted range with which his laws and ordinances have been made to operate, supply no creation whatever wherewith to judge its divine origin and to evaluate the potency of its message. That so brief a span, Baha'u'lláh himself explains, should have separated this most mighty and wondrous revelation from mine own previous manifestation, is a secret that no man can unravel and a mystery such as no mind can fathom. Its duration had been foreordained, and no man shall ever discover its reasons unless and until he be informed of the contents of my hidden book. Behold, Baha'u'lláh further explains in the Kitab-i-Badi, one of his works refuting the arguments of the people of the Bayan. Behold, how immediately upon the completion of the 9th year of this most holy and merciful dispensation, the requisite number of pure, of wholly consecrated and sanctified souls had been most secretly consummated.
Beautifully read. Thank you, Miss Claudia. And we move to paragraph 56. Dear Farzad John, if you could kindly read this one for us?
Sure. The marvelous happenings that have heralded the advent of the founder of the Babi dispensation, the dramatic circumstances of his own eventful life, the miraculous tragedy of his martyrdom, the magic of his influence exerted on the most eminent and powerful among his countrymen, to all of which every chapter of Nabil's stirring narrative testifies, should in themselves be regarded as sufficient evidence of the validity of his claim to so exalted a station among the prophets.
I think it continues. No?
Carry on, dear Farzad John. Let's read 57 too. Thank you.
However graphic the record which the eminent chronicler of his life has transmitted to posterity, so luminous a narrative must pale before the glowing tribute paid to the Bab by the pen of Baha'u'lláh. This tribute the Bab himself has, by the clear assertion of his claim, abundantly supported, while the written testimonies of Abdul Baha have powerfully reinforced its character and elucidated its meaning.
Beautifully read, beautifully read. So there we are, dear friends, paragraphs 53 through 57. Okay, we're opening now into this new section, the Bab. Okay, and in this section, we're covering this character, that the beloved guardian is introducing. He first introduced it at the opening of the dispensation of Baha'u'lláh, but now he's really focusing on this character that he's presenting, called the Bab. And he's first in paragraph 53, he is presenting one of the fundamental principles of the faith. And this fundamental principle of the faith is that the Blessed Bab is not just merely the forerunner to Baha'u'llah. That this is a fundamental principle of the faith, that he's not just merely a forerunner. He doesn't, but he also, this is such, and he says this is a fundamental principle of the faith, but he also has this other station. And he says this is so important. And this is a root principle of Baha'i belief. Root principle of the Baha'i belief, that he went and says he undertook the task of editing and translating Nabil's immortal narrative just so he could get this principle out. Now, okay, I don't know how many of you have read Nabil's narrative cover to cover, which I encourage every one of you to do. And in fact, there was, do not quote me on this, but I was in one of these Baha'i summer schools, and it said, I read that you should, every one of the friends should read the Dawnbreakers cover to cover once every month, okay? Now, it's not an easy book to get through, first of all, and probably it takes a whole month to read it in the first place. But this is what is in the, and I believe there's a quote from the Beloved Guardian on that, and I have to pull that and I'll send it to the class. It says that the friends should read the Dawnbreakers once a month. And the reason, and this, I believe it's in the compilation to the youth, and the reason is because the reading of the Dawnbreakers creates an energy within the friends. And so this is something, an enthusiasm, an excitement, a power, and it instills that level of desire. And I would say Iran, certitude, the word to have that faith and belief in the faith through understanding of the sacrifices of their brethren. So anyway, dear friends, I went off on that tangent, but this is, we're talking here about the Blessed Bab. There can be no doubt that the claim is this twofold station ordained for the Blessed Bab, a claim which he himself has so boldly advanced, which Baha'u'llah has repeatedly affirmed. So not only the Blessed Bab has advanced this claim, Baha'u'llah has also supported it and said this is true, as well as supported in the Will and Testament of Abdul Baha. So now all the central figures have supported this dual station of the Blessed Bab. And what is this dual station? It says here, the most distinct, and this station is the most distinctive feature of the Baha'i dispensation. No other manifestation of God in the history of manifestations of God have ever had this uniqueness of being a forerunner as well as having that independent manifestation of God authority, to be the forerunner of manifestation in his own. And so here it says, not being in the divinely appointed forerunner of so transcendent a revelation, but rather in his having been invested with the powers inherent in the inaugurator of a separate religious dispensation. To be one that is a forerunner is saying, there's going to be one that will come after me, an announcer, very similar to John the Baptist, to constantly proclaim that there's going to be one coming after me. But also, in his own right, he was also a manifestation of God. Never happened. The short duration of his dispensation. This is, and you're going to see this language always. You see this in God Passes By. Is the brief yet tragic. These are words that the Beloved Guardian chooses often. The brief, tragic type of his ministry. Short duration of the dispensation. The restricted range within which his laws and ordinances have been made to operate. Supply no criterion whatever wherewith to judge its divine origin and to evaluate the potency of its message. So just because it was a short dispensation, short ministry period, you cannot say, well, you know, it's not really divine because it only lasted, you know, from 1944 to 1953. It's not really. How can you base it upon that? No, that's not the criterion to evaluate the potency of its message. That's so brief a span. Baha'u'llah himself explains. Now, Baha'u'llah wants the friends to understand this revelation of the Bab. This is so important. This is at the very root of what it means to be a Baha'i. Baha'u'llah himself explains, should have separated this most mighty and wondrous revelation from mine own previous manifestation, is a secret that no man can unravel, and a mystery such as no mind can fathom. Its duration had been foreordained, and no man shall ever discover its reason unless and until he be informed of the contents of my hidden book. Behold, Baha'u'llah further explains in the Kitab al-Badi, one of his works refuting the arguments of the people of the Bayan. Behold how immediately upon the completion of the 9th year of this wondrous, this most holy and merciful dispensation, the requisite number of pure, of holy, consecrated, and sanctified souls had been most secretly consummated. So from 1944 to 1953, right? The requisite number of pure, of holy, consecrated, and sanctified souls had reached its point. That now Baha'u'llah could proclaim his message. You follow? So he says that this was foreordained. This was planned. Divine plan of God. This is foreordained.
May I ask a question here?
Go ahead. And I cannot vouch that I know it because it says the answer is hidden.
No, because I just wanted to ask you a very simple question. Which one is the Kitab al-Badi, the Baha'u'llah's book?
Very good question. Kitab al-Badi has not been translated into English. Okay.
Oh,
okay. The Kitab al-Badi has not been translated into English. This is a very tough work. And this was a refutation, refuting the arguments. So this was a book by Baha'u'llah that was defending the faith and it was one of his works refuting the arguments of the people of the Bayan. So this was it's a complex work, and I know that there are members of the research department that are and have been working to translate the Kitab al-Badi. But due to its complexity, as well as not a short book, it's actually quite long. So it's it's in the process of translation currently. So.
All right, thank you.
Okay, please.
I'm not mistaken, isn't the Kitab al-Badi the lengthiest book of Baha'u'llah? I believe it is.
Yes, it is. It is quite long. And I know from my, one of my, as my dear uncle, Khaze, he has been working on the translation of the Kitab al-Badi. And I know that it is almost complete and so it is one of the most incredible works of Baha'u'llah, and so I know that eventually this one also will be, you know, released to the world, because this is something it's as mentioned here, it's mentioned in Dispensation of Baha'u'llah that this is and it's also mentioned in several other writings, the Kitab al-Badi. So, but yeah, so I just wanted to know that, yeah, absolutely, dear Faisal John, it's very long, very complex, lot of difficult language to because you have to have in translation, you have to have background knowledge of this or that. You can't just like translate a word, you know, simply. So you have to have the true understanding of, to be able to.
Maybe the Guardian, he didn't translate it because not for this generation.
If you read Priceless Pearl, my dear Tesfaye, you will see how busy the beloved Guardian was.
Yeah, I know. This is very hard.
And
the whole life.
The beloved Guardian actually translated a lot of things, actually.
Yeah.
So of the many things that he actually translated, he translated the hidden words, and he translated Kitab Aqdas. Okay, a good chunk of Kitab Aqdas was translated by the beloved Guardian. Where did we get gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah? That was from the beloved Guardian. He actually translated it. That's where we got gleanings from. Okay, and prayers and meditations was from the beloved Guardian. And so he translated a lot of all those prayers that we have in the Baha'i prayer book, translations. The beloved Guardian translated so many things, okay? Apart from the thousand other things he was doing. So yes, he was doing a ton of translation. And of course, he was also doing, and then I want just to touch on this, because when we talk about the beloved Guardian and of all the things he was doing, we mentioned this right here in this Nabil's narrative, right? The dawn breakers. One of the parcels that was in the safekeeping, the satchel, that was part of Baha'u'llah's possessions when His Holiness Baha'u'llah passed away. It was there was a satchel, and when he passed away, this
Muhammad.
I apologize. When Abdul Baha passed away, there was a satchel, and this satchel was Mirza Muhammad Ali, the covenant breakers, stole that satchel, and that satchel had the authentic translations and editing of the Dawnbreakers. Okay, so His Holiness Baha'u'llah had edited the Dawnbreakers. Okay, if you recall, Nabila Azam had taken the account of the Dawnbreakers, but Baha'u'llah had gone and edited it, because obviously some people make mistakes in recording of history or whatever. And so Baha'u'llah himself had edited it and gone with his own pen and edited it. That copy got lost and stolen for all time. Now, the copy that the beloved Guardian got was the unedited copy, okay? And we find, so what the beloved Guardian had to do was, he had to go and reread and re-edit and go through the entire course of everything, all the accounts, not only edit and correct all those accounts. You see, it was an incredible labor of love and translation was the Dawnbreakers. And it's something that only someone of the caliber of the beloved Guardian, someone of that station could do. And it's because it was truly an incredible work of incredible hard task to do, was the Dawnbreakers. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that. I didn't want to talk too much, but you all know that. So anyway, these marvelous happenings that have heralded the advent of the founder of this dispensation, the Babi dispensation, these dramatic circumstances of his own eventful life, this miraculous tragedy of his martyrdom, the magic of his influence exerted on the most eminent and powerful among his countrymen, all of which every chapter of Nabil's stirring narrative testifies should in themselves be regarded as sufficient evidence of the validity of his claim to so exalted a station among the prophets. You know, as mentioned in the previous paragraph, paragraph 53, the entire reason that the beloved guardian took to the task of editing and translating the Nabil's narrative is a sign of the beloved guardian's immortal love towards the blessed Bab and wanting the friends to understand this twofold station of the blessed Bab, that he is not just merely a precursor, a forerunner to Baha'u'llah, that he encapsulates this independent manifestation hood in his own right, that he had a short and brief ministry, but that brief short ministry under no pretense, as here mentioned, as under no pretense constitutes it having less potency. Under no pretense, just because it was shorter doesn't mean that it's less potent. And so we have to, that so brief a span should have separated this most mighty and wondrous revelation. And so this, under no pretense should we think that it was less potent. Okay, and lastly, the final paragraph. However graphic the record which the eminent chronicler of his life has transmitted to posterity, so luminous a narrative must pale before the glowing tribute paid to the Bab by the pen of Baha'u'llah. This tribute the Bab himself has, by the clear assertion of his claim, abundantly supported, while the written testimonies of Abdul Baha have powerfully reinforced its character and elucidated its meaning. Okay, here we go, dear friends. Let's get into it. Checking our time, we got half an hour. Okay, here we go. In this section of the letter, paragraphs 53 through 57, the beloved guardian is explaining the twofold station of the blessed Bab, not only the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, but also as an independent manifestation of God, whose revelation has fulfilled the object of all the prophets gone before him, as attested by him in the Persian Bayan. This was one of the reasons they executed him, okay? His title as Qayyam. He says, I am the Qayyam, the one that you have, spoken about. So all the prophets have gone before him. This is one of the reasons they executed him, saying, so that is, all right. The Bab is not just the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, but also an independent manifestation of God. So these are the key points from these paragraphs, that the twofold station of the Bab is the most distinctive feature of his dispensation. And not just his dispensation, really of the Baha'i dispensation, of what's this most distinctive feature of the Baha'i dispensation. The greatness of the revelation of the Bab is primarily due to his role as the author of an independent religion to an extent unrivaled by the manifestations of God before him. All right, dear Tesfai, if you could kindly read this one for us.
Okay. All right. Is this the one? This is to be 53 to 57, the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. Okay, the divine origin and the power of the revelation of the Bab cannot be judged based on the short duration of his dispensation. The events that occurred before the declaration of the Bab and during his ministry The abundance of the revelation, his influence on the learned of his time, and the miraculous events accompanying his martyrdom are other evidences of the greatness of his revelation.
Sure. As we all know, we don't go to miracles as examples or of the revelation. And we don't suddenly start citing this miracle or that miracle to prove this he or maybe in the future she is a manifestation of God, right? We don't do that. And as the Gospels say, by their fruits you shall know them. So we should look to what is the message, what is their proofs, and what is the transformation of hearts that the word of God has changed in the community that he or she has brought, instilled into that community. And the reality is, look at the life of the Blessed Bab. And that's why one of the most incredible things that the beloved guardian did was the translation and editing of Nabil's narrative. So, you know, in the beginning of his ministry, because he wanted to demonstrate that the Blessed Bab is a manifestation of God in its own right. So he went and showed through the life of the Blessed Bab this story. It really is a story. Starting out way before the Bab, you know, from Sheikh Ahmed, and then the character called Sayyid Kazim emerges, and this is all foretelling about this person coming onto the scenes. And then then we hear about this, you know, Mullah Hussein, and he traveled all over Iran looking and searching. It's an incredible story, by the way. I encourage you to read it. So he starts searching, and as he's searching, he finds and hears, and all of this is because they are of pure of heart, independent of even someone telling them of this character called the Blessed Bab. No one told them about it. So they went and independently, 18 individuals found the Blessed Bab. And so these are titled Letters of the Living. So what happened? The Blessed Bab then proclaimed himself, the declaration of the Bab. He proclaimed himself. And eventually, more and more followers. And these Letters of the Living went forth. And very similar to the 12 disciples of His Holiness Jesus Christ. They went forth and proclaimed the message of His Holiness Jesus Christ. They went forth. And these Letters of the Living, they went forth, and very quickly, the whole country of Persia was shaken to the core, very quickly. And eventually the king was per se disturbed by the message because of his vizier. And if someone doesn't know what a vizier is, just think about Jafar from Aladdin. You know, Jafar was very similar to this vizier. Ironically, Jafar is also the mean one in Aladdin. So this vizier also was very upset about the message of the Blessed Bab. He was, and so what happened? He wanted to strip the Blessed Bab of all powers, not that he had any earthly powers, but he wanted to cast him into a prison. And so the Blessed Bab was first put into a home prison. But and this was in Isfahan. And very soon, the mayor of Isfahan fell in love with him. And everyone that are in that vicinity started loving him. Even the people from his own province of Shiraz, they fell in love with him. So they banished him to another place. And they moved him to a place called Maku. Now this place is one of the worst prisons. Maku means where is the moon? Ma means moon, ku means where. Maku, where's the moon? because it's in the heart of a mountain. It was so dark, so desolate, so bleak and miserable was this prison, Maku, that you could not, when you look up, all you see is blackness. Now, if you look at the shrine of the Bab at night, it's a river of light, because the blessed Bab was put into this desolate prison and could not even see a photon of light when he was in Maku. So this is why every night that the shrine of the blessed Bab is illuminated so beautifully. And so from Maku, then he was transported to Shihriq, another miserable prison, and then to Fort Tabriz, another terrible prison where they bastinadoed him. They beat him. I don't know if you guys, everyone knows what a bastinado is, where they string the legs up and then they beat him. And then they did this circus event where they took him and they did a kind of parade of challenged his authority, but with kind of like authorities around him, and they did a kind of public sentencing of him. And this is where the blessed Bab said, I am the promised one, that for 1,000 years you have been away. So this was an incredible public announcement of, now he was proclaiming, I am the one that you have been awaiting. This was there. Then they cast him again back into Fort Tabriz. And then at that point, they wanted to be done with it. The numbers of his followers were just growing at this point. And during this period was the period of where the followers of the blessed Bab were going to go to Fort Tabarsi, okay, at this point, to defend the faith and defend themselves at this point. And so we'll get into it. And I want to show you these events because this is all in the ministry of the blessed Bab. And I encourage you all to also read and study deeply the Dawnbreakers. Okay, so let's get into it. We're checking time. We're still got time. So here we go. In paragraph 53, the beloved guardian refers to this twofold station of the Bab. And this is unique in religious history. He is both an independent manifestation of God as well as the forerunner of Baha'u'llah. The greatness of the Bab is primarily due to his station as a manifestation of God. In the Kitab Asma, the book of names, the Bab explains, he who hath revealed the Quran unto Muhammad, the apostle of God, ordaining in the faith of Islam that which was pleasing unto him, hath likewise revealed the Bayan in the manner ye have been promised unto him who is your Qayyam, your guide, your Mahdi, your Lord, him whom ye acclaim as the manifestation of God's most excellent titles. So here in the Kitab Asma, and the Kitab Asma has not been fully translated, just an extract of it is there in selections from the writings of the Bab. And we see here this extract stating that the blessed Bab is saying the same voice that revealed the Quran has also revealed the Bayan. And in like manner, he who was a manifestation of God in that right, I am also a manifestation of God. I am also the one that ye have been promised. Okay? This is an incredible, bold claim. And remember how old the blessed Bab is at this point in time. He's like 30 years old. He's not an old. 1844, he was born 18, okay, let me do 1819, exactly, 1819. So he's like 30 some odd years old at this point, okay? So he's a young man, and he is proclaiming himself as a manifestation of God. He's proclaiming himself as the Qayyam, the one that have been promised by all manifestations of God, including Muhammad himself. And remember, this is an Islamic country where it's pretty scary at that time to even to mention something like this. Even today it is. But especially back then, it was even doubly scary to mention yourself as the Qayyam, which is, and your Mahdi, the one that have been proclaimed. He's proclaiming himself as that. Your Lord, him whom you claim as the manifestation of God's most excellent title. So further on, he compares his revelation with Islam in terms of its intensity and describes the divine power and potency of his revelation by announcing that I swear by the life of him whom God shall make manifest. My revelation is indeed far more bewildering than that of Muhammad, the apostle of God. If thou dost but pause to reflect upon the days of God, behold how strange that a person brought up amongst the people of Persia should be empowered by God to proclaim such irrefutable utterances as to silence every man of learning and be enabled to spontaneously reveal verses far more rapidly than anyone could possibly set down in writing. Verily, no God is there but him, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Now here the Blessed Bab is saying, I swear by my life that my revelation is far more bewildering than that of Muhammad. What a claim, what an incredible claim at such a young age, in such a country, such an environment, such a time to proclaim. And since the Bab is the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, his dispensation can be considered together with that of Baha'u'llah as forming one entity, the former being an introductory to the advent of the latter. So this, when we speak of the revelation of the Bab, this is the Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith is inseparable with the revelation of the Bab. So this is hence the dispensation of the Bab, and the events surrounding his declaration and martyrdom can be considered as the early days of the Baha'i revelation. Okay, this is from the Beloved Guardian, and we find that in the letters of the Beloved Guardian to the United Kingdom, and we find that in Unfolding Destiny, which is per se the compilation of the letters written to the United Kingdom in Unfolding Destiny. Okay, so when we talk about the dispensation of the Bab, it is the early days of the Baha'i revelation. It's all part and parcel together, one entity. And this is also part of why when you look at the Baha'i ring, the Baha'i ring, the 2 stars, right? Each
Absolutely.
star,
You're right.
Each star representing who?
The manifestation of God. Yeah.
Each star representing, one star is representing the Blessed Bab, the other star representing Baha'u'llah. One entity, the Baha'i revelation.
That is absolutely true.
The dispensation of the Bab lasted for only 9 years, okay? It's not 6 years. It doesn't say 1844 to 1850, no. 1844 to 1853, when Baha'u'llah received the first intimation of his mission in the Siyah Cha, as indicated in paragraph 53. And the short length of the dispensation of the Bab is not an indication of its lesser significance compared to that of previous manifestations of God. His ministry, 9 years, does not mean it's less potent. The Beloved Guardian explains, as the Bab was not only a manifestation, but a herald of the Baha'i faith, the interval between his revelation and that of Baha'u'llah was of shorter duration. His dispensation, in a sense, will last as long as Baha'u'llah's last. So his dispensation, the dispensation of the Blessed Babs, will last as long as Baha'u'llah's last. Okay? So this is from the Beloved Guardian. The dispensation of the Beloved Guardian will last as long as Baha'u'llah's last. All the same. The Blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah are, in this sense, part of the same revelation. In that sense, they're coming from under the. So this is.
You put in a very good tree. That's nice. So it shows that it's going together. That's really nice. That's why it's twin manifestation.
Exactly, the twin manifestations, exactly.
It's inseparable.
And according to the Beloved Guardian, Shoghi Effendi, in paragraph 53, the revelation of the Bab has fulfilled the object of all the prophets gone before him, as attested by him in the Persian Bayan. So again, this is the Beloved Guardian re-emphasizing this fundamental verity that the Blessed Bab has fulfilled all the prophets gone before him. But this is very important. However, the station of the Bab was initially misunderstood due to its uniqueness in religious history. The common belief of the Shia Islam regarding the life and disappearance of the 12th Imam was a contributing factor to this misunderstanding. The Bab was later identified with the promised Mahdi of Shia Islam and was given the title Al-Qayyam. Okay, so one of the titles of the Blessed Bab is Qayyam, okay, which is the 12th Imam, okay, the 12th Imam, Qayyam. Okay, so this is the Blessed Bab, the Qayyam, the promised to the Shias. Another title is the return of Elijah, anticipated by the Jews, the Mahdi, awaited by the Sunnis, the Ushadar Ma, referred to in the Zoroastrian scriptures, as well as the return of John the Baptist, expected by the Christians. So these are the titles of the Blessed Bab. So the one of the I mentioned here, the common belief of the Shia Islam and this misunderstanding is that they only saw him as when he proclaimed himself as Qayyam. But he wasn't just Qayyam. He's also a manifestation of God, not just a promised one.
I have a question for you over here.
Please.
Yeah, because from the description in the writing that Shoghi Effendi say, that the Bab is to be the fulfillment of all the prophecies of the past, like Baha'u'llah. Is that mean? Or yes, only for Muslim, or and for other things? Because Baha'u'llah is the fulfillment of all the prophecies in the past, from Adam to the Bab.
Yes. Yes, the Blessed Bab fulfilled the prophecies too. Absolutely, yes.
So the same. They are all the same.
And remember this one right here. Right here. The Bab is together with that of Baha'u'llah as forming one entity. Okay? This is the Baha'i dispensation. So the Blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah are twin manifestations. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is a very important concept.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you.
We should also consider them inseparable. When we talk about the Blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah, we cannot say, oh, this is the ministry of the Bab and this is the ministry of Baha'u'llah. No, this is the Baha'i faith. This is what we're talking about. And this is when it says that the ministry of the Blessed Bab is the early days of the Baha'i revelation. And even in this quote from the Beloved Guardian, the dispensation of the Bab will last as long as Baha'u'llah's lasts. So even this aspect of 9 years, it's going to last for the entire century of Baha'u'llah's revelation. You follow? So this is something that, this aspect of, this is Baha, the ministry of, revelation of, Bab, and this is Baha'u'llah's, no. Twin revelations, they're intertwined, interconnected, interlocked. They're fingers of the same hand. This is the reality, and this is the aspect of twin revelation. Please, Riaz John, please.
Okay, go ahead. I have one more question.
Okay, we'll come back to you, dear Tess.
Okay, thank you.
Along on this particular aspect, Shawli Effendi, the guardian of the cause of God, in his book, God Passes By, chapter 14, the opening sentence of chapter 14 in God Passes By, Shawli Effendi says that this date of the Bab, the declaration of the Bab, is also the beginning of the Baha'i era and of the Baha'i cycle. Just to add to the dimension, this is a new universal cycle, and the Bab inaugurated this new universal cycle of 500, of more than, not less than 500,000 years. Anyway, just want, chapter 14, God Passes By, first sentence, opening sentence of chapter 14. Thank you.
Great point, dear Yasha. Thank you, thank you. We go back to dear Tesfaye. You had a question, please.
Yeah, my question is really very important because of the seekers, that we have, the Christian seekers especially, because in the Bible says, in the Revelation of 3:12, in the scripture, Jesus Christ is to be returned in the new name. And the new name is to be written, New Jerusalem. And then that we are telling them that new name is to be Bahá'u'lláh, the fulfillment of all the prophecies. But now we can add Bab too, maybe together, because we didn't mention most of the time that to be Bab is to be the return of Jesus Christ. We are mentioning all the time the Bahá'u'lláh, because this manifestation is inseparable. So what is your opinion?
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, I have a long answer and I have a short answer. And so tonight I'm going to give you a short answer on this because I want to. So
yeah, because this is very important. That's why I'm asking you.
I know, of course, it's a good question. But I'm going to give you a shorter answer on this. Okay, yeah. So we can get to the next slide, because the next slide is also going to get into the point that dear Riaz John was talking about in God Passes By. Okay, which is also a very fundamental, important point too. So my shorter answer on this one is, in the Gospels, it talks about the announcement, okay? It talks about the trumpet, it talks about the gate, it talks about these terminologies, okay? And even the title of John the Baptist, of being the announcement, of one, the announcer, of proclaiming what he whom God shall make manifest, the promised one. All of these are announcers for that promised Messiah to come. Okay. Now the one that is the announcer is also the coming back, the return of John the Baptist. Remember, we talked about this here. The return of Elijah. This is foretold in the book of Daniel, that Elijah shall return. Okay. Exactly. In the Gospels, it talks about the return of John the Baptist. That John the Baptist, the one that was beheaded, he shall return. Now, these are foretold, and these all have meaning of the ones that will be announcing the coming of the King of days, the glory of God. Okay, the glory of God is the one that is the descending of the Father. Now, glory of God, translate that, is Baha'u'llah. The Father is a title of Baha'u'llah. So
Yeah.
these are, and if you go to the actual translation, the actual text, because the Bible has been translated from Aramaic. Now, if you go to Aramaic, go to its sister language, which is Arabic, and I've seen it in the actual text, it says Baha'u'llah. It says it there because that is the glory of God, okay? So these are in the actual text in Arabic, you see Baha'u'llah as in the word, in the Gospels there. So yeah, it's right there that this is the one foretold, the one spoken about in the Gospels is Baha'u'llah. And so this is, you know, it's just, if you have eyes, you shall see. If you have ears, you shall hear, you know? So the reality is if it's obviously over time, translations have changed, you know, we're not going to say glory of God, we'll say the beauty of God, or we'll change it to not the glory of God, we'll say the glory of, you know, and just change a word or here, and it distorts the meaning. And over, you know, 20, you know, 100 different translations, it changes meaning and description. That's what's happened. So yeah, anyway, long answer to something else. But anyway, dear Tesfaye, I'm moving on, okay? We got about 5 or so minutes. I just want to do a few more slides and then we'll close it down for tonight. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me see. Where were we? Twofold station of the Bab. We covered that. We covered this. Okay, here we go. The advent of the blessed Bab also set in motion a series of events prophesied in the past holy books. His appearance was the second woe spoken in the Apocalypse of the Saint John Divine. Okay, so this was mentioned in the Gospels. This was the appearance of the blessed Bab. It's called the second woe in the Apocalypse of Saint John Divine. The first of the two messengers whose appearance had been prophesied in the Quran. So in the Quran, it talks about two messengers. So the appearance of the blessed Bab is the first of the two messengers mentioned in the Quran. In the first trumpet blast destined to smite the earth with extermination announced in the Quran. So in the Quran, it talks about two trumpet blasts. Boom, boom. Okay? Now the two trumpet blasts, right? What do you think that means? The first one is the blessed Bab. The second one is Baha'u'llah. What do you think the trumpet blast means? Wake up, people. I've come. That's what it's pretty much saying. It's not like he suddenly wants to play some jazz. And, you know, the beloved guardian is not coming. The blessed Bab is not coming like, yeah, I'm Dizzy Gillespie. I want to play some trumpet right now. No, he's coming to wake up the hearts and try to bring peace to the world. He's not coming to play nice jazz tune. So, right? So, and then the inevitable, the catastrophe, the resurrection, the earthquake of the last hour. These are mentioned in, you know, the Gospels as well as in the Quran, talking about the end days. These are all signs of a prophecy related to the coming of the blessed Bab. But you got to have eyes, as they say. You got to have ears. I'm talking about inner eyes, not, you know, just got to have these things. You got to have inner eyes. You got to have inner ears to be able to understand when it says the first trumpet blast. If you just hear the first trumpet blast, you think, okay, so, you know, some angel is going to, you know, just like I have a picture here, is going to go boom, boom, you know. But if you don't understand the meaning and put 2 and 2 together, you miss it. And so that's the reality. Most of humanity has missed it. And this is where the beloved guardian is, you know, pulling the prophecies and tying them directly to the blessed Bab in God Passes By. Okay, he's done that. so this is, bulleted from God Passes By. He's saying this is where the prophecies tie directly to the Blessed Bab. And apart from the above listed prophecies, the beloved guard mentions the fulfillment of many other prophecies in God Passes By. And I encourage you, it's in pages 58 through 59, and they could be read for more information. The Blessed Bab has fulfilled myriads of prophecies, not just in the Gospels, but also in the Quran. And so, as well as in Zoroastrian scriptures, as well as in the other scriptures. So he is the one that has been foretold. Okay, so you as to your question of being the object of all previous revelation, the prophets, yeah, the Blessed Bab is the fulfillment too. Now we're getting into the greatness of his revelation. Let's see. This is an incredible part. I don't know. Maybe we'll do one slide tonight, but I encourage you to reread this paragraphs. There's so much cool pictures I pulled that I found in this part of the greatness of his revelation. It's pretty cool, unique pictures that I've pulled. As described by the beloved guardian in paragraph 56, the events that occurred before the declaration of the Bab and during his ministry, his influence on the learned of his time, and the miraculous condition of his martyrdom are other evidences of the greatness of his revelation. And it is not difficult to appreciate this statement of the beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi if one considers the events that occurred during the short period of the dispensation of the Bab and the conditions under which his followers, many of them the most learned of the time, sacrificed their lives to prove their love for him. I mean, just look to some of the most incredible individuals. Wahid. Go read Dawnbreakers. Who was Wahid? What an incredible individual was Wahid. So learned, so erudite, so incredible intellectually, and what a character he had. And so, yes, they read the Dawnbreakers and who these individuals and what they did to sacrifice their lives for the Blessed Bab. Okay, let's see. I know the hour is maybe one more slide. Here we go. The chain of events that led Mullah Hussein to meet the Blessed Bab from the time of Sheikh Ahmad Asai, Mullah Hussein of Bushri, is all mysterious in nature and clearly providential. Mullah Hussein Bushri, after his first meeting with the Bab, has narrated, I felt possessed of such courage and power that were the world, all its peoples and its potentates, to rise against me, I would alone and undaunted withstand their onslaught. The universe seemed but a handful of dust in my grasp. I seemed to be the voice of Gabriel personified, calling unto all mankind, awake, for lo, the morning light has broken. Arise, for his cause is made manifest. The portal of his grace is open wide. Enter therein, O peoples of the world, for he who is your promised one is come. What a cool quote from Mullah Hussein. Truly, that is such an incredible statement. So, dear friends, that will be our closing slide for tonight. We're at the hour of 8:30. We'll try to keep it sharp. Okay, excellent. Any questions before we have our closing prayer or thoughts? Don't want to belabor it. Riaz John?
I just want to say something. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, John, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Very quickly, though. This Wahid, you mentioned Wahid, the individual Wahid in Baha'i history. And you mentioned he was a learned person. The king of Iran, or Persia, the king of Persia, I think Muhammad Shah, he chose the most learned person in his court. This Wahid was the king of Persia considered this Wahid the most learned in his court, royal court, and sent him to interview the Bab and ascertain the nature of the Bab's message. This is who Wahid was, the most learned in the country.
Right.
And he interviewed the Bab on 3 successive days. At the end of the 3rd day, he prostrated in front of the Bab, put his forehead on the ground, and announced his allegiance to the Bab, and renounced his allegiance to the Shah, never went back to the Shah. Now, so this was Wahid. One example. And another point I want to mention about the station of the Bab, that Shaykh Effendi says in chapter 14, God passes by, that he inaugurated the Baha'i era. Now, this is not an ideological concept. We're living this era, this Baha'i, because our calendar, the Baha'i calendar that we use and we have in our pockets, and the letters we write, and we're using the calendar of the Baha'i era, the same Baha'i era that the Bab inaugurated. So we're living this Baha'i era, and one aspect is that our calendar is the one that the Bab initiated as the Baha'i era. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent point. Yes, our Baha'i calendar, the Baha'i era starts 1844, and so that
Right.
is. So when we say,
Right, yeah.
Yep. Your Tesfaye, do you have a close?
Yeah, one thing I just want to say to the audience and for you, I'm asking so many questions. Sorry for my going deep detail into the writings because of my nature. So I just want to apologize if I take your time. But secondly, what I want to say is after we finishing this Baha'i dispensation, is that our next chapter is going to be the Dawnbreaker to continue as a class?
We'll see, my dear Tesfaye. We'll see. We'll see. We actually have other ones. Okay, so Dawnbreakers is fantastic. Okay, but and also
That's
we can
too
always
long.
have.
It's too long.
We can always have suggestions. We can always have suggestions, and so thank you so much to every one of you tonight, and thank you, my dear Tesfaye and Riaz John, every one of you. So one of you has a closing prayer, and then we'll say good night for tonight.
All right, thank you.
Okay, oh, there's Miss Yuda has a hand. Thank you so much.
O thou merciful God, O thou who art mighty and powerful, O thou most kind Father, these servants have gathered together, turning to thee, supplicating thy threshold, desiring thine endless bounties from thy great assurance. They have no purpose save thy good pleasure. They have no intention save service to the world of humanity. O God, make this assemblage radiant, make their hearts merciful, confirm the bounties of the Holy Spirit, endow them with a power from heaven, bless them with heavenly minds, increase their sincerity, so that with all humility and contrition, they may turn to thy kingdom and be occupied with service to the world of humanity. May each one become a radiant candle. May each one become a brilliant star. May each one become beautiful in color and redolent of fragrance in the kingdom of God. O kind Father, confer thy blessings. Consider not our shortcomings. Shelter us under thy protection. Remember not our sins. Heal us with thy mercy. We are weak, thou art mighty. We are poor, thou art rich. We are sick, thou art the physician. We are needy, thou art most generous. O God, endow us with thy providence. Thou art the powerful. Thou art the giver, thou art the beneficent. Abdul Baha.
Thank you very much, Yuda, and thank you every one of you. Have a wonderful week. Allah.
Yeah,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
What a Hafez.
Thank you.